Hi, in this video we're going to do an introduction to Stata. I have Stata 13 installed on my computer. I have a Windows computer. I have it pinned to my start menu right here. I also have it pinned to the taskbar right here. So we click that and Stata window opens up. Stata has a number of windows, and each window has a different purpose. And you can manipulate a lot of those windows. So I want to first just orient you to what each of the windows does, and then we'll talk a little bit about if you want to do any tailoring of how it looks. Here is what I think Stata 13 and 14 both look like by default. We have a window here on the left, a couple windows on the right, a window along the bottom, and a window in the middle. First off, let's start with this window in the middle. This is where all of your output is going to appear. So this is kind of like the main results and output window for Stata. And so when you start it up, it always shows you in this window what version of Stata you're running and all of that good stuff. Right below that is the command window. This is where you type in any commands that you want to run. So you can see it defaulted by putting my cursor active in the command window. So any command that you want to type to tell to Stata gets typed in this window. So this is where you type in all of your commands, and this is where all of the results are going to show up. Now on the left and right side we have some kind of informational windows. The left side, they call it the review window. And you'll notice that as we start typing commands, they will start showing up in a list form on this left-hand side. That's convenient because as you start writing a lot of different code and start doing a bunch of different things, you may want to go back and rerun something, or you may want to look at what you did. And so this keeps kind of a running tabulation of all the different things, commands that you've submitted. Over here on the right-hand side, on the top, we have the variables window. When you read in data into Stata, it's called using data. So when you load a data or use a data set, it's going to show you all the variables that are currently in the active data set. And so this is super convenient to go along and see what variables you have in your data set. And finally, on the lower right-hand side, in the properties window, we have a little bit more information about variables. And so if you want to look at a specific variable, you can click on it, and then down here you can get a little bit more information about that specific variable. And then finally, in the very bottom right-hand side, we have our data window. And this really I use primarily to see how many variables are in the data set that I have and how many observations are in this data set. It's kind of a good check to make sure that I have the data that I think I have. So this is what it looks like by default, and this is likely what it's going to look like at any computer you sit down in any of the computer labs here on campus. You can manipulate this. So Stata is mostly a menu-driven program. So you'll see along the top here it has kind of your standard Windows menus, file, edit, and then it has a data menu, a graphics menu, and a statistics menu. These are kind of like the three main ones we use. Looking at our data, manipulating any variables, all that kind of stuff. Graphics, creating any plots, figures, graphics you might want, all in here. And then finally, statistics, all the models you're going to do. Any kind of descriptive statistics, regressions, all that stuff is going to appear in here. So these are kind of the three core of what we do. But first off, I want to show you the file menu. Here's where we can import our data. So in the next tutorial, I'll show you how to actually import your data. And in the edit one, again, it's kind of the copy paste what you would normally have. So these are kind of like your standard Windows menus. Underneath the edit one, you'll see down under preferences, we have general preferences, graph preferences, load a preference data set. So this one right here is where if you want to change a little bit of how Stata looks like on your screen, here is where you would do it. So notice that by default we go to what Stata calls the widescreen layout. And I think it's widescreen because it puts windows on the left and right, uses the kind of modern widescreen. You can actually use a compact layout. So if I click on that, notice that all of a sudden this comes down, and now those different review variables and properties are now over on the right, but they kind of go away. So this is maybe nicer if you don't want to see those all the time and you want to maximize how much space you have for your output. And so again, like the name implies, it might be better if you're running a smaller monitor and you don't have the kind of real estate to show those windows all the time. We can also do, it has some presentation layouts. These are nice, for instance, in the lab, if we're putting stuff up on the screen and we want to be able to zoom in or be able to see things a little bit better. Some of these work a little bit better for that. I'll be honest with you, I think most people just kind of leave it in the default, and that's what I do, and it seems like it works pretty well. So what's it look like? So I said down here on the bottom we have our command line. So I can change the directory, which is a common thing that I do whenever I start Stata. So you'll notice I typed in a command here, I hit enter. It submitted that command. All I told Stata here was to say, make my directory, my Stata directory on my C drive. And so I submitted the command, and then it came right back and said, okay, this is now your directory. And then notice up here in this command window, it shows that that's a command that I ran. If I wanted to rerun that, I could click that and hit enter, and it'll rerun that. If I want to rerun it, I can double click it, and it will automatically just rerun it. Okay, so commands go down here, and anything you do, the output would go up here. Here's a list of all the different commands you've been running, and you can recall those. I will also tell you that when you're down here in the command window, I can use arrow, page up and page down. So you can't see it, but on my keyboard I hit page up, and then I hit page down. Page up, and if I hit page up again, it'll go up to the next one. Unfortunately for us, it's the same exact command. Page down, page down. So a lot of different ways to be able to go back and rerun a command that you previously run, either clicking over here or using page up or page down. And then clear is a common command that we use if we want to get rid of any data that we have in memory. We don't have any right now. So this is just a very first introduction to Stata, how to open it up, and how the windows are laid out. And in the next video, we'll talk about reading in some data.